Okay, ready. Good evening, listeners. This is Bless Radio. It's Tuesday evening and it's 6 p.m. UK time. This is the Spiritual Discussion Program, and I'm Saad in Southeast London, in Bromley, and with me is Gregory. How are you, Gregory, and how is the weather where you are? Can you hear me, Gregory? I can't hear you. I don't know if you can hear me. Just to let you know, the weather in London, it is, I can say, let me get Gregory back before I... okay. Gregory, are you there now?
Yeah, I couldn't hear anything, so I had to...
Right. Okay, welcome back. I'm just saying, Gregory, I'm in London, and the weather here is, well, it has been overcast. Just now, I think there's just fluffy clouds around. It's been cold as well, about, let's say, 12 degrees or something. So it's a bit cold. How is it where you are?
It is bright and sunny, but a bit on the chilly side.
Okay, it's a bit different from us. So welcome listeners. As I said, this is the Spiritual Discussion Program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Uprushing. And we have a new topic every week. The topic for tonight is connecting with nature. Connecting with nature. You're welcome to join us with any questions or comments by contacting us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text or use WhatsApp. I'm going to begin with, what is the Grail Message? The Grail Message in the Light of Truth by Uprushing is the spiritual knowledge of life. It offers an explanation of the world, a picture of creation on the basis of natural laws. Its lectures contain valuable basic elements as a help in life. For through the knowledge mediated, the reader is again brought closer to life and led back to God. The Grail Message deals with important fundamental questions of life by explaining in a clear and logical way the automatic working of the laws of nature, the whole weaving of creation, allowing every process to be recognized and thereby the purpose of our whole life. It is directed at the individual and speaks to the innate experiences of the human being, their strengths and weaknesses. Thus, every reader has the opportunity to discover through the intuitive perception if what is stated is the truth. Combining with matter-of-fact reasoning, a complete world picture arises, where there is no separation between the visible world and the great world beyond the five senses, nor any separation between scientific and religious striving for knowledge. I'd like to give you a couple of quotes from the author of the Grail Message, Uprushing. The hearer and reader of my lectures should always work within himself, keenly probing and building bridges from one lecture to the other, as well as out into the great and small world happenings. Only then will he be able to understand the Grail Message and find that it gradually shapes itself into one complete whole without leaving any gaps. Again and again, in all the happenings, the reader will come back to the basic features. He can explain everything without having to change even one single sentence. The word of the Grail Message lives so that it permits only those people who really carry the honest desire in their souls to find abundantly. All else is automatically rejected by it. For the arrogant and those who seek superficially, the message will remain the book with 7 seals. And I'd like to give you one more quote from the author. I wish to fill the gaps which have so far always remained unanswered in the souls of men, and which never leave any serious thinker in peace if he earnestly seeks for the truth. So, dear listeners, just to remind you, the topic for tonight is, the topic we're discussing tonight is connecting with nature. Connecting with nature. You are welcome to join us with any questions or comments by contacting us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text or use WhatsApp. Gregory, as you know, I like to look up in the dictionary the meaning of the words in the topic. And the topic for tonight is, as we said, connecting with nature. So the first word there is connect. And I looked it up in the dictionary, and I found it says bring together or into contact so that a real or notional link is established. And the example they've given is the electrodes were connected to a recording device. So that's the example they've given. So I'll just repeat that. The meaning of connect, bring together or into contact so that a real or notional link is established. Gregory, again, in relation to our discussion for tonight, is that a good definition for connect or connecting?
Well, thanks for this particular reading from the dictionary. The key word one was expecting is link. To have a connection is to have a link.
Right. So that means it sounds a good definition.
Well, one has stripped away all other things and used that word link. Because the picture one sees, when there is a link, then there is a connection. All other things are to qualify this link, and sometimes they can depreciate the meaning.
Right. Okay, so we will just use that word link because it's more clear.
Yeah.
Yes, that's good. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next word, which is nature. And again, in the dictionary, it says the phenomena of the physical world collectively, including plants, animals, the landscape, and other features and products of the earth, as opposed to humans or human creations. So I'm going to repeat that. This is the meaning of nature in the dictionary. The phenomena of the physical world collectively, including plants, animals, the landscape, and other features and products of the earth, as opposed to humans or human creations. What do you say on that definition, Gregory?
Again, because of the wording of this definition, it is verbose, and along the line, you have areas which are gray. When it is mentioned human as opposed to human creation, and the limitation to the earth, is the moon not part of nature? Is the sun not part of nature? So you find that, these type of definitions given by the dictionary, although may be helpful, but it doesn't refer to the core of what nature is.
Okay. I personally, when I took that word earth, let's say I took it as a collective term for, you could, well, I know it's a good thing to say universe, but let's say the solar system. I just thought it includes not only the earth, but other, well, I don't know how to put it, but other similar bodies. But of course, the sun is not the same as earth. I understand that. But I would say that, yes, as you said, there is something not quite complete in this definition. I would going to say whatever has been produced through nature, and that includes earth, other, I don't know exact word to use, other things in the universe, which is all produced through nature. So, but not by human beings. I think that's another way to put it. Because human beings, let's say, are creating things which we'll call them artificial. So anything through nature is not artificial. So that's, I don't know how good that is. What would you say on that, Gregory?
One becomes very skeptical when human beings or the human body is not involved. Is the human body, the physical body, is it not included in nature?
Well, I would say,
one would ask.
Right. So I would say, of course, we human beings didn't create ourselves. So we did come through nature. I would say that. But then we human beings do create our own things. Whole houses and inventions that we have made. That is not through nature, I would say. That is our own human, how can I say, ideas.
I was referring to the human body.
I see, yes. That's what I meant. The human body is not made by humans. It is through nature. So yes. That's what the point is. Okay, so you're saying human being is, in that definition, it is included human being as not being nature. Obviously, yeah. Okay.
And that is why one was stressing that some of these definitions, they are a bit very, very cloudy and not precise enough for one to use in further explanations.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you, would you be able to give a definition for nature so that we can, for our discussion?
Though it might be challenging, when one is considering the world of matter, then one is closer to defining what nature is.
Okay, and can you clarify that a bit more? So is nature only in the world of matter? Is that what you're saying?
I said when one refers to the world of matter, one is nearer to defining what nature is. For when one uses such things as world of matter, then there are tools which are used for the perceptions force in the world of matter, which tools, say for human personality or others, could be the five senses.
Right. Yes, I'm appreciating more what this subject, we are discussing tonight. So we just have to approach it slowly but surely, as they say. Now, let's stick to the world of matter, because it's easy to see that what's in the world of matter and understand it, let me say. So now, the topic tonight is connecting with nature, and I think we can all agree that man or human beings have lost touch. Well, they used to be closer to nature, let's say, some time ago, even in before, let's say, prehistoric time, maybe even, than now. Somehow something's happened that we seem to have lost the connection that we used to have. Or let's say we used to work more in harmony with nature in those earlier times, and now it seems we have deviated from that. Gregory, let's address that one. How is it that humanity has sort of lost touch or with nature? Is it with the science that has made us separate from working with nature, or can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I thought I had to wait for you to finish.
Okay. Yes. So I'll just repeat it. I just saying, what has led man to sort of disconnect from nature, lose the closeness with nature? Is it science?
As with everything which is underutilized, if one is gifted in, say, singing, and you don't practice how to sing, over time that ability will diminish. The same thing happens with the loosening of that connection or that link with nature. Unless it is used vigorously, in which there is continuous interaction, then you have the scenario where you have, due to the lack of continuous interaction, which interaction basically could be in deeds, could be in thoughts, could also be in one's intuition. In that case, you find that those instruments that one needs to use in the interaction, in the connectivity with nature as a container, or basically the world of matter as a container, and also the forces which bring about the structures in nature, unless there is a continuous engagement, then you land yourself in a scenario where you then lack the communications with this container world of matter, or you lack the effective communication in the world of matter, and also the forces which made the world of matter possible. And that has been the challenge.
Thank you for that answer, Gregory. You mentioned the forces of nature, I think, there, and I don't quite know what other word. There was something else you mentioned there. The forces of nature.
I talked about the container of this in this world of matter. That container is one way. See, nature as a noun refers to a container. That means a world like in the world of matter. Then the forces of nature that ensure we have structures in nature, the different categories in nature, the different types in nature, and then the connection between the different types in nature. So it is this one's referring to as the forces of nature.
Right. I think I'm getting the picture now. So there's this matter, world of matter, which nature is. The world of matter is part of nature, you can say, and there are the forces of nature which shape this world of matter. I think that's what you're saying.
Correct.
Right. Okay. So let me see. These forces of nature, Gregory, are they living beings, or I mean, what are these forces? There's, we have gravity. There's a gravity there. Is that force of nature?
Again, one must say thanks for this question. Ever before the human personality arrived in this part of the world of matter, ever before animals also took on shape, ever before plants, ever before you have the mountains, any vegetation, all this, the elements, which elements have been there in the world of matter, these elements were combined. In this combination to form structures, there have been forces. These forces have taken on form. So these forces are not arbitrary. That means they work anyhow. Therefore, one must refer to a reference framework, as you have with any building which has been erected. There is always an architecture, which architecture is what is followed in the erection of a building. In the same sense, there is an architecture which has been followed in erecting structures within the world of matter. And that is what gave rise to the universe, the physical universe, the different planets. Mention it, all you will find there is a structural architecture right behind it. Of course, for it to make sense to man, there must have been some form of wisdom, which wisdom had been there, and that this wisdom permits those who walk within the limitation or within the limitations of the world of matter to expand it or to set up structures. This wisdom has the workers. These workers one may refer to as that they serve this wisdom. So they don't have to be human beings as you and I may classify them, so they are beings. These beings have been there to ensure the further construction or maintenance. So there are beings, but they may not be classified as human beings. Just as we ourselves are beings, human beings, there are also other beings who walk within the world of matter, who walk in nature to ensure the continuity and the maintenance of nature.
Thank you for this answer there, Gregory. Again, I can sort of see a picture building up, although it seems to be quite complex in the sense there's a variety of it that we need to appreciate. Now, so just to get clarity, we have these beings which are, let's say, forming this world of matter, like we said, shaping, therefore they're forming this world of matter, and which is not, they are not human beings, which is obvious because this world exists already. Well, let's not go into that just now, but just take it that it wasn't the human beings who formed this world, and there are other beings who did that. So just want to get one more thing clear, Gregory. So is nature, gravity, which is, we can call one of the forces of nature, I guess, is that also a being?
You yourself mentioned gravity. Gravity, strictly speaking, is not a being and could never be a being. Gravity only came to be used due to the densification of energy. As energy, due to heat, as energy precipitates, it becomes denser and denser. And as it becomes denser and denser, it moves away from its source of precipitation. It is that moving away from the source of precipitation and the subsequent gathering of these precipitates. The subsequent gathering is what is referred to as gravitational force. Therefore, gravity itself cannot be referred to as a being. That is completely out of the question. What holds is that as matter solidifies or as energy solidifies due to a reduced temperature, you will find that there is the accumulation of the different tokens that have solidified. This accumulation, anytime you have an accumulation, is like an attraction. It is that attraction that is referred to as gravity. Whereas here in the world of matter, or basically on Earth, or in the physical universe, many distances, or what may refer to as metrics have been brought into it to do some calculation.
Thank you for that answer. I think it will probably require a little more time to absorb what you've said there, but we will continue. Dear listeners, you're listening to Bless Radio. It's the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message, by Abdrushin. If you are interested in knowing more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that. www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic we're discussing tonight is connecting with nature. Connecting with nature. You're welcome to join us with any questions or comments by contacting us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And we're broadcasting on Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1.com. Also, you can listen .com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, the number 1 again, space live stream. You can listen to the recording of this show also on YouTube the next day. Again, go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1 again, space. Tonight is connect. And of course, that's ZEFM/Bless Radio 1, the number 1 again. Now, Gregory, we've covered a lot already, about what is nature. And we said it's referring to this, you could say, the physical world. It is, how can I say, what nature is, what forms this world of matter. And they are, you could say, forces of nature which shape that. The world of matter is part of nature. That's another way we could put it. And then, Gregory, you made it clear that we are human spirits or human beings are not, although we have come through nature, but we are not the nature beings or the forces of nature. We are not them. So there's a difference there. So, I mean, another way we know it is because what we create as human beings, we call it artificial, making it very clear that that is not natural, as they say. Nature makes things natural, and we human beings, well, let's say, we make our own thing, which is not considered, I don't want to use the word unnatural, but it's artificial. And then the other thing was, somehow we seem to be closer to nature in the olden times, let's say very old times, and somehow we have got disconnected in the world of today over some time with nature. And an example of that, which is very clear, is the environment where we have this climate change going on, which is endangering. Oh, okay. So apologies, somebody calling there. It was not for the show, so apologize for that. So somehow we've lost touch, Gregory, with nature somehow, and I know you explained that when you don't use your abilities, let's say, regularly, then, you're not so good at that, whatever that happens to be. And I was saying maybe science is the reason, because we rely on science more nowadays. So we moved up, that could be the reason that we are not no longer so close with nature. And I'm wondering. Okay, sorry. Now I just remembered where we were. So so there is one thing. The proof of that is that we've disconnected with nature. Is this what's happening with climate change, which is due to human activity, and our world population has grown so massively, and we are using Earth's resources a lot at a rapid pace, and even competing with our fellow creatures like animals and, let's say, even plants, for food and land to survive. And and I guess that's how we just can't seem to be able to live in harmony with nature. Probably that would be a good thing to look at, Gregory. Oops. I'm sorry for that. I thought I turned it off. Ken? Yeah, what is the core, you said the one thing was the abilities, that we seem to have not been able to use our abilities that made it closer to nature in the past. So what's happened to those abilities, Gregory? You said you don't use them so much. So what are the specific abilities that we've sort of not used?
The innate ability of the personal intuition rise vigorously. That's because of that, the lack of use must be partially due to the personal indolence of the personality. And in that case, you will find, because of the lack of continuous use, there is a loosening, and things become not clear. In that particular scenario, it becomes very clear that those beings that are responsible for the maintenance of nature, for the construction structures in nature, one is no more in contact with them through one's personal radiation. And as long as that link or that connection is weakened, then even when these nature beings, which one we call the elementals, those who are busy working in nature, in the construction and maintenance, even when they strive to make connection with man, man is unable to respond. The warnings which could be given, these warnings are ignored. And in that case, then you have the scenario where everything is either overused, like in the case you mentioned of this climate warming and the destruction of the streams. All sorts of things then happen because it has become one-sided, where man in touch with these elemental beings then they would have been warned way beforehand as to the consequences of their activities, such that they would take heed.
Thank you for this answer there, Gregory. You know, you mentioned these elemental beings, and I would say in today's time, nobody would really know about them. It's, as you say, we have definitely disconnected with them, and probably people are wondering what that means. What are these elemental beings? You can't see them physically, am I right?
No. One cannot see them physically. That does not mean one cannot perceive of their activities. For our range of perception is such that we have drawn away. Our range of perception is loosened, so it's not fully connected with them. That does not mean they are not others. Like the animals, they are able to perceive of these elemental beings, maybe not all of them, but most of them, and they are able to heed their warnings or heed the advice which is given to these animals, which animals are still in touch with these elemental beings. In that case, the elemental beings can send warnings or can perform certain activities which the animals are able to perceive and heed warnings or advice. Whereas man, having loosened that connection or practically severed that connection, he or she is unable to perceive of the communications with these elemental beings.
Thank you for that answer, Gregory. When you said that about the animals being able to perceive these elemental beings or see them even, and us human beings not able to do that, it sort of gave me an idea of the frequency. You know, when you, for example, we talk about the radio show, that we are tuning into a particular frequency, and then that's how we can communicate with each other and the world. And so maybe we closed our frequency to these elemental beings, which the animals haven't done. So they're able to do that, but we are not. And obviously, which means we can't communicate with them. And also you mentioned that, you know, we know they already mentioned they have built this world, you know, this world of matter that we live in, and we need to work with them if we're going to do anything on the earth or in this world. So you can see it's essential that we must have some communication with them. And as you said already, we know from the disasters that are going to happen or already happening with the climate change and so on, that we're not able to handle living with our fellow creatures. So, Gregory, what can we do to tune in with these elemental beings? I just want to go back to this science. Do you think science is, because it seems that, you know, we rely on science, that's become, you could say, the God, if I can put it in quotes. That's what we rely on now in our modern world. So, as the king of, you know, how we're supposed to live. So, would you say that has diverted us from, you know, approaching these elemental beings?
You mentioned science, but you did not say what science is.
Okay.
Yeah. So therefore, to accuse science without telling us what science is, and that will not be fair.
Maybe I should say the reliance over, how can I say, because it's become the foundation of our civilization, of how we live. You know, and you know how technology is advanced in so many ways. So everything is designed and built using science. And maybe somehow I thought science somehow is not able to work with nature. Although we learn from nature through science, but somehow it seems to be one-sided. As you said earlier, it seems to be one-sided. Or we just think, oh, it's going to benefit mankind or humanity, but seem to be at the expense of everything else. So I put it. So is there some limitation in science practice? That's maybe what I'm pointing to, that it doesn't seem to work with nature.
Well, first, one has to look at the framework for communications which man is supposed to use. In that framework of communication, first deals with the five senses which is available to man. That is one level of communication which is expressed using the five senses. The second level of communication of a different type is that level of the thoughts, of the human thoughts. Human thoughts because human beings have thoughts. There is no need to try to prove to anyone that human beings have thoughts. There is the third level of communication, that of the human intuition. That is not very clear to many because, like has been mentioned, that which you do not use again and again becomes rare in its usage and before long forgotten. There is the human intuition, there is the human thoughts, and then there is the human physical activities. The realm of so-called science falls within the human physical activities and to some extent the human thoughts. Although science is unable to prove that there is human thoughts because it relies basically on the five senses. Therefore, one can already see the limitations and why it has become one-sided. On the one side, there are the human activities which are tied to the five senses. On the other side, there is the human intuition which is scarcely used, scarcely utilized. Whereas to be a real human being, there must be the use of the human intuition resonating with the human thoughts, which human thoughts will now resonate with the human activities. Science itself only relies on the latter and ignores the first two. And in that case, you then find that there will be holes, there will be gaps in the activities of man. Which gaps is what you now find in the one-sidedness, because it is that part you develop that you can use, not the part you have ignored. And therefore, what is referred to as science, which basically is that you find that whatever is perceptible to the five senses physically, science can examine. Above that, science has no clue because it's unable to examine it since it's of a different category, a different type. So therein lies the problems that the human personalities have. So, and also therein lies the solution. As soon as man learns to use his or her intuition aright, to ensure that intuition, that intuitive perception, is able to impress on one's thoughts, and one's thoughts is able to impress on one's activities, as long as these three are in harmony, then you will find the communications which lie outside of man, through which the elemental beings use, that channel is kept fresh. In that case, warnings and advice can easily be followed. Else, there will be a one-sidedness which will cause many a thing to tumble sooner rather than later.
Thank you very much, Gregory, for this answer. There's more to explore there. Another thing I want to say, in the olden days, or I don't know what another way to put it, there used to be, let's say, nomads, and well, they're still there now, but basically people used to roam freely from one land to the other, borders, like countries that we have, for example, and obviously they didn't have the science technology that we are using now, and they lived, you could say, in harmony with nature then, and you can say then we had at some point this industrial revolution where man moved from rural areas into the urban areas for developing, the inventions, whatever inventions they happen to come, make, we can say machinery and things like that for whatever products they wanted to make. So they had to have a lot of people living in the close up together rather than in the past, they were doing farming or some other activity in the villages and such places. So, and what I'm wondering, Gregory, when they were in the rural areas, people living more in rural areas, it was maybe also in closer with nature then. And somehow, by coming into the urban environment, they also lost touch with nature there, because with the rural they had animals and so on. They were closer with nature from that point of view as well. So I'm wondering, was that a mistake somehow, or a wrong path with this industrialization, although it sounds like progress? So I'm just saying, was that a retrograde step there, Gregory? Industrialization for human development?
Closer to nature does not mean that when one comes to an urban area and one has several connection with nature, and because of the constructions which you yourself refer to as industrialization, look at the Incas. Look at the sort of structures they put there. They didn't have the massive, gigantic machines we now use, yet they were close to nature and they were able to set up these structures. Many should avail themselves, go to South America and see they had civilizations, they built lakes, they built all these things. Where did all these instruments come from? Were they massive tractors? Were they motor cars? Yet, at the same time, they were also close to nature. So one should not tie, coming to the urban areas with receding from nature. The closest to nature is connected or linked to the use of one's intuition to be able to communicate with others rather than oneself, to communicate using the forces of nature, using the guides or the hints which nature shows to man. Of course, these hints are always there. Nature always responds to man. But when you have that man ignores these hints, because these hints are so very simple, then one must say it is the fault of man due to their lack of comprehension of the simple hints which nature poses in front of them. So the key here is the need for the use or the continuous use of one's intuition so that it is strengthened again and again. Then things will become clearer and brighter. And then one is able to communicate, one is able to make sense to the hints which nature provides to the human personality. That connection should never, ever be broken.
Thank you so much for that answer, Gregory. I want to pursue that a bit more. And I'm just okay. I'll ask this question straight away because I was going to ask a different one, but let me go and ask this one. So the big question then, Gregory, how to connect with nature? Is it by spending time in walking in forests, naturescapes, like this? So as I said, we are living in I know you said even people are living in urban environment. There's no reason that you can't connect with nature. But in the urban environment is surrounded by, artificial environment, built up environment. And yes, there are some places, there are parks and so on, but somehow, so what I'm trying to say, Gregory, that, as you said, we have not been using our intuition and so on. And maybe, and that could be, I'm going all over the place now, and maybe, Gregory, because of that, we are now more stressed and suffering mental health issues, the physical well-being also not so good. So maybe, because as we said, nature is made through the nature forces and beings, and we need to be closer with, if we're going to do things to be in harmony with it, we need to be closer with it. So would you say one way of that is to, go into natural environments, spend time there, and yes, we eat, we work and have fun in whatever entertainment that we do, but also maybe part of the healthy living should be spending time in the nature environments. Is that also helpful?
The challenge has always been the one-sided interpretation of what nature is. And for many, it it is considered when one moves away from built-up areas and goes into the forests or goes into the mountains or maybe goes into the seas where one is connected with nature. That is a one-sided way of interpretation and a very narrow way. Connection with nature only means to know how to respond to the signals which nature sends to man. These signals may come with that which one is able to perceive with the five senses. That is one way. These signals may come in the way in which one is able to pick up thoughts. That is a second way. These signals may come also through one's intuition. It is these three that need to be coordinated such that when one observes that which is physically comprehensible, in which one can use one's five senses, one is able to coordinate it through one's thoughts also and through one's intuition to get the meaning. What lies behind it? What lies behind this manifestation? In that particular scenario, whether you are in the forest or you are in your house or you are beneath the sea or you are in the mountains, it's immaterial. But many find it convenient when they move away from the madding crowd in the so-called built-up areas. But even in that case, when you move to the forest, there are animals there that are noisy. When you move to the sea, there are fishes there that are swimming. So there will be always things which will draw your attention. It is the discipline that the human personality has cultivated. This discipline will ensure his physical activities resonate with his thoughts resonate with his intuition. That is the key to be able to connect with nature. For without this resonance between these three, one will be lacking. For you will find many things which manifest visibly, which manifest physically, but what lies behind it, you yourself don't know.
Thank you so much for that, Gregory. Just want to let the listeners know you're listening to Bless Radio. It's the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Abdushin. And if you're interested in knowing more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that. www.grail, G-R-A-I-L, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic we're discussing tonight is connecting with nature. I'll just say that again. The topic tonight is connecting with nature. If you wish to say any comments or questions, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And we're broadcasting on Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1.com. You can also listen to us on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, the number 1 again, space live stream. That's for the live show. You can listen to the recording of this show also on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, the number 1 again, space Grail Message, space the topic of the show, which tonight is connecting with nature. And that you can listen to the next day after the live show. Now, also you can listen to us, of course, to our previous shows also on YouTube. Thirdly, we're broadcasting on Zeno. That's ZENO.FM/Bless Radio 1, the number 1 again. Now, there is a place in northern Scotland called Findhorn where there's a community. Well, it was founded in the 1970s, let me say, just to give a bit of background. I want to give a bit of background there, by 3 people. I'll just say their names: Eileen Caddy, Peter Caddy, and Dorothy McLean. And without going to too much information on the story of what happened there, but basically, Eileen Caddy, let's say, she's just like an ordinary person, but one day, and they were living in a, let's say, not in any lavish way, they didn't have much resources, and at some point, they were given, let's say, a message of how they could live on the land they were living in, which is a caravan site, in fact, where, and it was on a sandy shore in northern Scotland, and the place is called Findhorn, by the way. So, and when the Eileen Caddy was, she claimed that she was communicating with God, not that she herself contacted God's, the voice spoke to her and then instructed her what she should do, of how to use those resources where she's living. And basically one of these, you could say, miraculous type of events happened where on sand, which you can't really grow much, she was able to grow vegetables and so on, even to a quite sizable size. And this became famous around the world when scientists came to check that this is really true or not, and they couldn't explain it themselves. They said, this is impossible to grow these vegetables, such large vegetables, in this sort of soil. And, well, the lady Eileen Caddy, she, knowing that it was not like science working there as such, they were not using science, but they were being given instructions. And as I said, this lady thinks it is God talking to her directly about what she should be doing, to grow it. And they were told exactly, this is how much they need. I can't give the exact description of what exactly happened, if I'm afraid, but they were, as I said, given instruction of where to plant and how much water to put in and so on and so on. You can just imagine what that requires to grow something. So, as I said, this became famous and the community built there. And the point is here is that this place became famous for working in harmony with nature and connecting with nature. And even other people came along who felt other things could be also done in the world, transformation of the human beings in other ways as well, in education and so on. So many other ways people were gathering there thinking this is a new way. And even one of the people stated that, well, they could make a paradise on the earth if this was followed, what they were doing. Because obviously they were using the resources, in minimal resources, and yet able to produce incredible results. And So what I want to say there, Gregory, what could explain that in these modern times, because, this type of thing you don't get nowadays, and they were not using any big tools, as you said, Gregory, even in the past olden civilizations, they didn't have such big tools or build the way they were able to build. But here it seems there was some instructions being given to man or human beings to live in harmony with nature or to connect with nature. And as I said, this lady thought it was God speaking to her. Could you explain what could be happening there?
Well, thanks for bringing up this type of discussion. It is very surprising. It's surprising because human personalities never ask themselves questions when confronted with that which is already present here on earth. Many did not ask how the earth came into existence. No one asked when they saw the pyramids in Egypt how that came into existence. But they were quite sure these things were constructed. When you go all the way to South America and see the structures which have been put in place and the sorts of way they carried out their agriculture thousands or hundreds of years ago, where science was not even mentioned, many did not ask, how did this come about? There was the case of medicine, in which many in those civilizations were able to make use of advice, simple advice, which some knew, and they lived in a healthy fashion. No one bothered really to ask pertinent questions regarding this. And then here you have a lady and some people who decided to live very simply as possible, and for one reason or the other, due to the way they had lived initially, were able to perceive through their intuitions. They were able to perceive of the communications with others who asked them to carry out certain instructions. And in doing that, they were able to get certain results. These results were achievable not with the massive instruments that are available to man now, which one may call science or technology, but very simple instructions, which show that only in simplicity can one really make meaningful progress. So it's not something big to be explained, other than man should first learn to listen to his or her intuition. It is quite remarkable that any time one has an experience other than the physical discussions with fellow human beings, they quickly consider, oh, it must be the Almighty that is speaking to me. As was said, there are those who are responsible for the constructions in nature, those who are responsible for the maintenance of these structures in nature. And therefore, whoever is first able to listen or put it bluntly, whoever is able to perceive of these communications intuitively and is then capable of responding and following the instructions given aright, such a person, such a personality will achieve wonders. Wonders which put into shade the so-called massive constructions that you have with the so-called science. So it doesn't really mean that because, this particular set of people have achieved ABC, others must live where they are staying currently and run to the countryside. For what many refer to as nature is running to the countryside, where there is less noise, less distraction. But this distraction has been brought by man alone. For it is man who, through his activities, through his physical activities, which are perceptible to the five senses, the activities of one's thoughts, which when added to it causes much confusion, and then the lack of the use of one's intuition, this is what has precipitated the quagmire which man is now in. In the case of the scenario you just mentioned, they have moved away from the madding crowd and put their thoughts away such that they could observe the workings in nature. In that way, they prepared the soil within themselves to be able to recognize the impression which assails them, and subsequently to be able to respond to these impressions. That is what has happened.
Thank you for this answer there, Gregory. Just to say a little bit more about this lady, Eileen Caddy. As I said, she was not a simple lady. I mean, she was not, you could say, even skeptical when this voice was speaking to her first time to, what she was hearing. So it's not like she was a really some sort of person who's already into that type of things. But somehow she started to listen, and her husband and the other lady with her also followed it. It was her who was receiving it, and they followed it, and they even asked questions, and they were given answers. Or the lady Eileen Caddy was asking questions, and as I say, a community built up after that, and many people came, and as part of that, there were activities like you could say meditation, but not like the word meditation is a very general term, can be used in a different way, but it can be just silence and just standing, you could say, in nature. And then they had singing and dancing. There were some cultural things also that came out from that, and also people, they felt this is a way they're supposed to live, and so they formed a community. And also, now there's, I think, over 300 people there. The original people have now died and passed on, and then I actually went to visit there not long ago, maybe a month or so ago, and I can, from my observation, I would say that the same inspiration is there. I'm not sure if they have they receive those instructions the same way, but let's say they do appreciate what the original founders, brought to that the to that world there. In fact, just to add to that, they are trying to things have grown. They're trying to live in an eco-friendly way, as we know in the world today, is with solar panels and building houses which are eco-friendly and so on, experimenting and so on. And then some of these have turned into businesses to bring that to the world, you can say. So there's a good development that has happened there. Now, and Gregory, as usual, people, when they receive these things, they want to pass it to the world. And what I want to ask is, it seems, to change your habit of a lifetime is not very easy. I mean, we are used to recycling now, in most of the world, I would say, or a lot of the world. But somehow there's still, change is not easy for many people. So, and it made me think of this statement of Jesus, that the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. So, because everybody, well, I will say everybody, we all want to do good things or want to be happy, and hopefully, the statement you say, Gregory, all for one and one for all, which should be inspiring for all of us. But somehow, to change our behavior for living in this, let's say, harmony with nature, with fellow human beings, it's not, seems to be, for human beings, let's say, not so straightforward, or difficult somehow, or not, let's say, not everybody is capable of it, somehow able to do it. Some are more able than others. So I want to ask, Gregory, is there something different with individual human beings? Some are more able than others, going in reference to that Jesus saying spirit is willing but the flesh is weak.
May I refer to the London Marathon?
Sure.
In the London Marathon, many are willing to participate and, if possible, to come first in the London Marathon. That means the volition, sometimes which is a spiritual volition, is very strong. But you know how much effort is needed to compel the body to practice again and again and again and again, because the body is much, much sluggish. It has to be trained over time to be able to adjust. That which has become deeds in spirit takes quite some time to become deeds through the activities of the body. Like those who are accepted to participate in a London Marathon, to them, deep within, it's already a conclusion. It's already concluded. But to live through, to participate, and all the time that it takes, that one takes quite some effort. And not everybody is able to run within the same time frame. So once one considers it that way, one can then see only those who have been training for this, who have been making use of their body to adjust to the little challenges, only those are able to accomplish the task. One would not say seamlessly, but they are able to accomplish this task in a less strenuous way as compared to those who have not been involved. If you want to test it, say you yourself wish to run in a marathon, all right? That is only a volition. But if you do not practice, and on the day of the marathon, you think you can just jump in and do 26 miles, well, go and try it. It is the same with all volitions, that there must be the gradual preparation in a step-by-step to ensure one's physical body is prepared for it, one's thoughts is prepared for it, and also one is able to resonate with one's intuition. So in these three areas, they need to work in harmony. Else, one wishes to participate in an event like the London Marathon, and the body is not trained, that is already a catastrophe. So it's quite easy to understand why there are many, in quotes, with good volition, because they are willing, and yet accomplishing it, they have not put the body through its pace to be able to adjust in the fulfillment of these volitions. And that's why partly it is said, the spirit is willing, but the body is weak. Because it takes quite some time and effort to get the body to prepare in the fulfillment of the tasks which are required in fulfillment.
Thank you so much for this answer and explanation there, Gregory. Now, we hear in the news so regularly, there's a protest group, well, maybe that's not the right way to put it, but an environmental group which is making protests called Extinction Rebellion in the UK, and they do direct action by blocking roads or motorways. I mean, the aim is basically, they're saying that yes, the government is doing something to how can I say, reduce the effect of climate change, which is going to be quite devastating. We know it with the weather disasters and so on happening all over the world, actually. And but they even call it climate emergency. Or let's say we hear that those phrases are bandied about, but this protest group saying we are not acting as if it is an emergency. That this climate change, the actions we are taking are not really happening quick enough to deal with this as if it's a climate emergency. So they've taken to this direct action, as I say, blocking roads and motorways, which is causing a lot of disruption. Not just, so they're not into, they do it peacefully, they're not doing the marches, let's say, or maybe they do a little bit of marches, but this is their big way. And the reasoning they say is that the democratic system is not, the government is not listening to them, the normal way that people make protests, and they think it's because it's such a necessary need that this change must happen. And only government can take, well, let's say, implement some of it. And this is the way they think they can do something to make the necessary change happen in the country. And also the government argues that no, we are the best, especially in UK, they say we are the leading nation in this environmental changes, leading the changes. But the question there, Gregory, is, it's sort of following on from the last one. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. But here we're talking about not one spirit, but the whole nation, you can say, and even the world. But people are going at different speeds. Or there's a will for a faster action, but the reality is that the global movement is happening slowly compared to what is required. So should there be, and if obviously the idea is to do things peacefully, so should there be some, I don't know if they call it, I don't know if it's called forceful, but should it be done like drastic action like this, Gregory, to make things happen?
The issue you just raised, one should look at it in context. Only a few years ago, maybe a couple of years ago, there was the COVID, which brought nations to a standstill. It means movement was reduced to the minimum. The resources required for the daily living, because of the lack of transport and lack of movement of goods and services, these things were reduced to a minimum. And when viewed correctly, it had an impact on the price of goods and services. How many were prepared to pay for the increases in price of goods and services? Yet, that was a pointer as to how things work in the world. It is very easy for those who are not in the administration of the running of government to make very quick suggestions. However, those who are responsible in the running of government still have to ponder to those who voted for them. In that case, we find that unless they listen to what those who supported them to get in there, sooner or later they will lose favor. Therefore, it is not that straightforward or that easy for those who wish to take, in quotes, drastic action. If you want people to move away from where they are to a better place, then show through vigorous activities what the better place is. Very sadly, those who advocate for these things anyway have not shown counter-example or shown example of a better place that the nation should be in. They only advocate. That means they really have not planned. They haven't examined thoroughly the place which they wish the nation should be, because they lack the necessary experience. So it is quite easy to say, oh, let's move here. Above all this is that there is always a reference framework, which reference framework is what has been hammered on again and again. That reference framework of the laws of nature or the laws of creation through which all that exists came into existence. In that particular scenario, the mode of communication with this reference framework is to ensure that that which is perceptible to the five senses resonates with one's work, with one's thoughts, and one's thoughts also resonate with one's intuition. In that case, you will find those people of similar intuition for upbuilding in accordance with this reference framework, those will come together. That is an attraction of homogeneity. In that case, through examples, simple enough, they are able to have a fruitful upbuilding in accordance with this framework, where it is one for all and all for one. So, unless you have that type of behavioral pattern, then it becomes very difficult. You cannot hold one nation and ask that nation to fulfill all the conditions when we talk about one for all and all for one. If other nations are not persuaded, no matter how little these nations are, if they are not persuaded, it's the right incentives in moving forward. They themselves may not see the need to do that.
Thank you very much again, Gregory, for your answer there. I've got something else to ask about that a bit in a minute. I just want to let the listeners know this is Bless Radio. It's the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Abdrushin. If you are interested to know more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy for yourself, then you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that. www.grail, Grail, message, message.com. And the topic we're discussing tonight is connecting with nature. Connecting with nature. You're welcome to join us with any questions or comments by contacting us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And you are listening to us on Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1.com. You can also listen to us on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box. Bless Radio 1, the number 1 again, space, live stream. That's for the live show. And and of course you can that's for the live show, as I said, and you can listen to the recording of this show also on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, the number 1 again, space, Grail Message, space, the topic of the show, which tonight is connecting with nature. And you can also listen to our previous shows also on YouTube. Thirdly, we are broadcasting on Zeno, which is zeno.fm/Bless Radio 1. Number 1 again. So, Gregory, I want to think, so going on from what we said in the last question about, the protest movements trying to get what they want and, trying to do a disruptive way. But, so one of the issues that is connected with that is, we've had I know it's a bit old now, but this conference for the climate change called COP26, it was had in Scotland in 2021, and they were making some decisions and goals about how they will, reduce this the effect of climate change and minimize it. And one of these goals was to, cut down on the fossil fuels, and let's say, for UK, they would stop using burning coal for energy. But then what happened, they agreed to that, they said they would do that, and then what happened, we have this Ukraine-Russia war came, and the energy prices jumped. And then the government said, we need to use this coal, which is like, you could say, breaking their promise, or at least when they set targets, it might mean that there could be delay in the targets, achieving the targets that they set. So, and Gregory, as you mentioned earlier, there was the pandemic, which in quotes came out of the blue, and it led to, dramatic, decisions to be made about how we're going to manage with the economy and so on, and, financial issues that came from that. Of course, many sided issues there were, but one of them was the financial. So here again, we see that some event has happened, and then the way you thought you're going to do something, it's not going ahead like that anymore. And again, the idea here is to be in harmony with nature, and somehow some event seems to push us away from that. So my question is there, Gregory, well, maybe I'll make it more blunt then, Gregory. Can we really achieve being harmony in nature with the human sort of plans?
Of course. It is possible to achieve harmony with nature using one's intuition to ensure that the intuition, the good volition, harmonizes with one's thoughts, which one's thoughts also harmonizes with the final implementation in deeds. It is possible. That one hasn't tried it does not mean these things are not possible. You yourself gave the example of the case of these people in Scotland. Of course, there were always distractions, yet they ignored the distractions and they were able to achieve something. One must open up. You must ask yourself, before the advent of electricity, what did they use? There was the whale oil, there was the palm oil, there were all these things. Electricity only came about maybe 150 years ago. In that particular scenario, all the economic calculations were based on slaughtering the whale for their oil and producing some palm oil from some other countries or some form of other oils. Electricity was not there. Neither was petrol, or the oil as we now know it. It wasn't there. Yet there were civilizations and they moved on. It was subsequently that these other oils, particularly the one we now refer to as petrol or crude oil, came in. But the crude oil has always been there. Gas has always been there. But we did not recognize it. As time went on, there was a recognition of gas, which has always been there. There was a recognition of crude, which has always been there. And that stopped the decimation of the whales. So true recognition, of that which is available, man was able to make progress. Subsequently, there was the fabrication or the recognition of the creation of electricity, which was then used subsequently Whereas that was always there. Only when people who moved away and reflected differently, only when they put their thought together did they recognize all these things. Therefore, in a similar sense, once the human personalities are ready with a firm good volition, then through their intuitions, they are able to communicate with these forces in nature, which forces in the first case ensure these things through the wisdom that guides them, ensures these resources are there. Then man's eyes and ears and perceptions will be directed and open to all these things. Then you will find that which they wish to accomplish can be accomplished in peace without destroying others. So it is possible to achieve peace and achieve harmony. Like has been stressed, one for all and all for one ensures that no one is excluded in upbuilding. If no one is excluded in upbuilding, where greed is minimized or stamped out, then many persons in different environments will ensure that their skills and talents are brought together. And in doing that, they will use these skills and talents in upbuilding. Skills in medicine, skills in the arts, skills in the sciences, skills in whatever area one considers in human endeavor. Once it becomes one for all and all for one, then the scenario then arises, emerges, where there will be support and upbuilding can then commence.
Thank you so much again for your answer there, Gregory. Now, I think the big question now is how can we use our intuition, or how can we develop our intuition, to use it so we can, work with nature, basically, connect with nature. So, you say we don't need to go to some, how can I say, in nature itself, like going to mountains or forests, but just, but I guess, Gregory, we do need the right environment. You can't have people, disturbing around you. You got to have silence and quiet, for you to be able to receive the intuition, right? You can't artificially induce that. So, so my question really is, how do you develop your intuition that you can just apply it, like naturally? Maybe that's my question. Yes. How can we have our intuition working in a natural way?
Many a structure, many a restrictive structure has been built around us personally, where there is no respect for others, where we consider ourselves alone. In that scenario where we consider ourselves, that means alone, in the case of selfishness, we sort of violate the rights and the talents and the skills of others. For we wish to make use of what they have to offer without considering their welfare. In that case, it breeds worries, it brings conflict. Therefore, the first thing is to demolish the wrong concepts that we have built around ourselves. Everyone needs, or everyone wants that which is good and that which is beautiful. No doubt about it. That is what everybody wants. But where is the person who is prepared to start initiating it such that it will be good for himself or herself and also good for others? Very few, if at all. And with that, real progress cannot be made. It does not mean one has to run to the forest. For even if that happens, the confusion that one has built within oneself, there are returns due to the terrible deeds. And these returns will leave the human personality with no rest. So, as long as one desires and strives after that which is good, not only for himself, but also for his neighbor, there will be restraints in limiting that which is good in others. And in working together, those of genuine talent, those who have the skills to perceive clearer of their intuition, they will come together and build up. Those who are not so very clear and have realized that will support those who have a clear intuition. So it is not as difficult or as challenging as many imagine, but just following the simple rule to love thy neighbor as thyself, which is basically one for all and all for one.
Thank you for this answer there, Gregory. So, more you're talking there about an attitude rather than any particular practice, so it's not you have to, I'm trying to think of something, if I use that word meditate, it might not, people might have different idea about it. So, because you also said before that you have to, the more you practice something, that's which becomes stronger. So is there any specific practice apart from that, what you've just said about showing love to others? And
when one refers to the need for practice, you mentioned a key word just now, which is that of attitude. The inner attitude says it all. So, one should not consider that because now I wish to be good, therefore all others whom I have known are bad. That is a wrong attitude. There is the need to destroy the wrong structures, the wrong views one has always had. Once that happens, then the changes come from within. For it is the human personality that has not been able to ensure that its good volition, its intuition, does not resonate with its thoughts or resonate with its physical deeds. So the task is personal to each one, as long as they strive to ensure that these three different categories are are aligned, then the problems will be minimized. Most of the time, the different categories are not aligned. For one's thoughts vary from one's deeds. One's intuition varies from one's thoughts. Therefore, you have a house or a human personality divided against itself. How can it then stand? Whereas the structure which is mentioned, this structure consists of human personality. Have you ever considered that if all the human personalities are removed from the earth and taken to another planet, that the earth will recover very quickly, like you have in the COVID, and the planet where they now are, there will be more confusion in there. So the problem is not with nature per se, but the human personalities who has caused so much confusion. It is the human personality that has to change its inner attitude.
Thank you so much for this answer there, Gregory. Dear listeners, we've come to the end of our show tonight on the topic of connecting with nature. Hope you've enjoyed the discussion, and I would like to end as usual from the foreword of the Grail Message titled For Your Guidance. The bandage falls and belief becomes conviction. Liberation and redemption lie only in conviction. I am addressing earnest seekers only. They must be able and willing to examine this matter objectively. Religious fanatics and irresponsible enthusiasts may hold aloof, for they are detrimental to the truth. As for the malevolent and prejudiced, they shall find their sentence in the very words. The message will strike only those who still carry within them a spark of truth and the yearning to be true human beings. To all such it will become the shining light and staff. It will lead them unswervingly out of all the chaos of the present-day confusion. The following word does not bring a new religion, but is intended as the torch to help all serious listeners or readers find the right path, which leads them to the longed-for height. Only he who bestirs himself can advance spiritually. The fool who uses extraneous aids for this, in the form of ready-made opinions of others, only walks his path as if on crutches, while ignoring his own healthy limbs. But the moment he boldly uses all the abilities which lie dormant within him, awaiting his call to help in his ascent, he is employing the talent entrusted to him in accordance with his Creator's will, and will easily overcome all obstacles that seek to divert him. Therefore awake. Genuine faith lies only in conviction, and conviction comes solely through an inflexible weighing and examining. See that you're truly alive in the wonderful creation of your God. Aprushin. Dear listeners, just to remind you, if you want to pick up a copy of the Grail Message or want to get more information on the Grail Message, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, G-R-A-I-L, message, MESSAGE.com. Gregory, would you like to say anything to say goodbye?
Wishing every listener a beautiful week ahead.
Thank you. And the same for me, listeners. We'll be back as usual next Tuesday, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time with another topic. Good night. God bless.